All right. Kyle, I might need a little help here and there as we navigate through this. It's been a couple months for me. First time on the agenda is roll call. We have Ashley Case, Lisa Buck, Bob Bear, John Beckett, Michael Costello, Judd McIntosh, and Phil Ruck is joining us remotely. Next item is acceptance of the agenda. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second. We need just to take
Roll
a
call?
roll call vote.
Yep.
For the approval of the agenda, Bob Bear,
Yes.
Phil Ruck,
Approved.
Michael Costello,
Approved.
John Beckett,
Yes.
Judd McIntosh.
I wasn't present, so abstain.
It's the
For the
agenda,
agenda.
Oh, the
you're
agenda,
fine.
sorry, I was thinking minutes. I was one step ahead.
but I'll try to
Yes,
remember that next time.
sorry, yes.
Lisa Buck,
Yes.
Ashley Case.
Approved.
All right,
That's-
Krista.
Oh, Krista, approval of the agenda?
Yes.
That's 8-4, none opposed.
All right, next item is approval of the minutes of July 19th, 2023. My one step ahead. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
On page 3.
Is your microphone on?
Krista, can you turn your,
Sorry,
no problem.
there we go.
Thanks.
Okay, on page 3, in the middle of the page, it says, the vote to recommend the proposed amendment to council pass. This was not a amendment to council. It should say the vote to approve the site plan application.
Thank you. That must have been copied from something else. Apologies.
And then on page 1, at the bottom of the page, that last sentence there, well, no, the next to the last one. It starts the project has no, and then there's a hyphen, and is therefore unlikely to disturb its immediate neighbors. I think we can fix that up by saying, so the project has no immediate neighbors and therefore is unlikely to disturb its neighbors.
I will take a look at that. Thank you.
All right.
Anything else, Krista? We Good.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
Can we get a vote?
Have something,
Oh,
page 5. Third paragraph from the bottom. The eternal factor shouldn't be external.
I will take a look at that and make that connection. Thank you.
Any other comments or? Mike, can we get a vote?
Vote to approve the amended minutes.
Get a second, I guess. Let's go.
For the approval of the July Planning Board minutes, Phil Ruck,
Approved.
Bob Bear, Michael Costello,
Approved.
John Beckett,
Approved.
Judd McIntosh.
Abstain.
Thank you. Lisa Buck,
Approved.
Ashley Case,
Approved.
Krista Switzer.
Approved.
That's 7-4 with one abstaining.
Thank you. Item 4, new business. First item is an amendment of an approved site plan by Sergeant Realty LLC located on 3 Godfrey Drive. Would the applicant like to come up and give us a summary?
Can you hear me?
Perfect.
I think Kyle's gonna put the quick site plan. I guess I'll start by a quick introduction. My name is Doug Morrison with Sargent Corporation. Sargent Realty is a holding company for Sargent Corporation. Been there 21 years, pretty much my whole career. Currently vice president of operations for the company. Recently, we've moved into our new office on 3 Godfrey Drive. I was not involved with the original site plan approval. I got involved obviously after that. Some changes we were looking to make to the original plan was the original plan removed more of the parking lot. It'd be on the north side of the plan that you see adjacent to I think it's Sylvan Road. There was an area of pavement that was turned into grass, and part of this amendment, we'd like to put some of that back. It would still be leaving a 40-foot less of a parking lot towards Sylvan Road as more of a buffer to the neighbors over there. And another part of the amendment would be to adding a new sign. You can see the new sign location. With this amendment, we also submitted a sign application permit with a rendering of what the sign would look like in its current location. So that's why we're here, looking for approval to amend the original plan from Haley Ward.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant before we go to Kyle? All right. Kyle, you want to give us a summary?
Yeah, so I can add just a bit more there. All right, so I mean, if you can see my cursor on the screen, before I think the approval that the planning board had in October of 22, the parking area was coming down more this way. Previously in the existing parking lot, there was a median, like landscape median down the center of the parking area. And that's pretty much what the previous proposal was looking to bring the parking lot down to, which is why I think during the construction process that median got removed. So then kind of afterwards, when the applicant realized, they were interested in keeping some of that original parking area. One of the things that needed to kind of go back and look at in regards to our off-street parking ordinance was sort of the island landscaping, trees kind of in and around the parking area. So if you'll see on the plan here, that median that was kind of in the center of the parking area before is gone, but you have these 9 kind of median strips throughout the parking area now that break up the parking lot into kind of more accessible areas of kind of 20 space groups. That's a condition in our off-street parking ordinance. The applicant's proposing that those are grassed, I believe. Yep. And then, so you'll also see something that wasn't on the previous plan that came forward in October 22. There's now 10 shade trees around the north and eastern side of the parking area, as well as some of the trees towards I believe the front of the parking area and other parts of the parking area that were existing before were removed. So that was to counter that and bring those back into place. The curb cut to the parking area is the same as what was originally approved as part of the site plan back in 2022. So again, no new pavements going down. This is still an overall reduction of impervious area to the site. So when it comes to things like drainage patterns and stormwater runoff, there's there's no expected impact there that would be worse than what was already existing on the site at the building before Sargent kind of took over the property. We're still decreasing overall impervious. So, yeah, I mean, as far as parking requirements for this site and for the office building, if the whole building is eventually used as office space, I believe it would require 240-ish parking spaces under the land use ordinance requirement. So by keeping, these spaces, I think that comes pretty close, if not meeting that number by itself. But then you also have the parking area right now in the rear of the lot as well. Like when you extend down this way, the lot kind of extends there. So there's no concerns there if the applicant were to come forward at a later time with a new tenant for the other part of the building there. So yeah, other than that, there's no real changes here to the use or traffic generation, or no new construction to the building, no expansion of the parking area. It's really a matter of leaving it at a stage of not reducing it to the total of what was proposed previously. So something like this, as it's a deviation from what the planning board originally approved, just has to come forward as an amendment. It's not really something staff can just approve on its own. So that's why we're here, but happy to answer any questions.
I
I
have
have a
one.
question for the applicant, I guess.
Yeah, go ahead.
The current state, it was never removed or reduced, right? Current state is full state.
The current state is it in today?
Yes.
Yeah, it's got their 40-foot removed.
Yeah,
Yep.
so that strip that you see at the top there.
Yep.
So it's
showing-
actually in the state today.
Correct.
Okay, so
Yep.
you never actually implemented the
Right,
true
so
amendment. Okay,
So that's kind of how we got here
Okay.
is the applicant took it down to this existing state now. And it became a matter of, okay, you either have to match the site plan
yep,
that was previously approved, or if this is your kind of new desire of what you want on the site, you have to come back to the planning board to have that amendment made to match what's, you've sort of left on the ground there.
understood.
So that's why we're here. Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't constructed the islands or the surface paving yet. So that's kind of phase 2 of the construction project over here, as
Okay,
well as the landscaping.
so it's not actually at the state yet.
Right.
The pavement is the
pavement's
parking lot size
there,
is,
the
but the other
land- yeah.
amenities, so to speak, are not.
Yep,
Okay,
just the binder paving and the temporary striping.
got it.
Yep.
Okay.
I have a question. Just concerned about the lighting. So Kyle, your summary just talked about matching existing lighting. I just wanted a clarification. So I could see that you had some now on the outside of the additional paved area that you added. I just want to have a little bit better understanding of what you're proposing and just making sure that it's not going to be any brighter than was originally proposed, way back when. Kyle, I don't know if you want to
Yeah,
speak to
so
that as applicant.
I know that the original application had proposed to use the existing lighting that was in the parking area already and just
Yep.
reconfigure those existing lights into the new parking area. Looking at this plan, you can see the six lights on 6 of the islands. I do see that the plan does show in the grassed area at the top, a couple of
Right.
those existing lights that were part of the original parking area still there. I'm not sure if the applicant plans to keep those or the plan is to get rid of those, but those were in that location in the original parking area. So that wouldn't be additional new lighting. That would be kind of existing lighting that was already there.
Yeah, I can touch upon that further. We had Hammond Electric do a luminaire study for us. So there is 9 light poles. We reused the existing poles themselves, and we just put in all new LED heads on them. So
Yep.
they did a complete study on lighting to make sure it was sufficiently lit. We also added some wall pack lights that matched on the building. Because there were originally smaller light poles kind of right off of the original sidewalk adjacent to the building. So everything
Right,
is,
so your lighting diagram, did that happen to show? Typically, that's just a requirement or criteria that we review. You look at lighting at the property line. So did your revised lighting diagram that you got for those outside lights, did that show any impact on the neighboring properties, or did it stop at the line?
I'd have to go back and look at it.
Yeah.
Obviously the heads face the other direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
But-
I can, so Phil, the only reason that we wouldn't have asked for that specifically here is because it's in the lights on the northern side closest to that property aren't going any further than what was already there and what was already approved by the planning board previously before Sargent owned it. So that's really from an application material standpoint, why we didn't ask for any. But yeah, I would say there's a good 100 feet, but by the time you get from the edge of the parking area there to the property line and then through the buffer that the town owns there to the north before you get to the nearby residence. But certainly that's something that I mean, if the board wanted to include that as a condition, just to
No.
include that with the permit application, we could do that, or
Yeah, not a big deal. He
Oh.
just mentioned that they had the study, so I figured I'd ask
Sure.
if they had the
Yep.
data. And just to confirm that there's no more impact than there was before on the neighboring properties, because lighting was an issue, as that probably came up before, so.
Yeah, I can probably get you that information from Hamden Electric.
Yeah, as
Yeah.
long as it meets our ordinance criteria, that's what we're looking for. Question on the signage too. So the site plan you submitted, I just want to clarify. So the proposed signage, it's actually going to be on the south side of the entrance. Is that correct?
So we hope to put it on the other side of where you see it now. There's an
Correct.
existing transformer vault there, which is
Yeah.
perfectly in the way of where we really wanted to put the sign. And
Yeah.
we tried to work around it a little bit. I had talked to Kyle and Rob
Yeah.
Yerxa and Pat, and the only way to incorporate it where we truly wanted it, we would have been about 2 feet over the easement. And there was no way to do it without going across it. So that was kind of a deal breaker for us.
yeah, so Phil, where the sign is shown on the northern side
Yep.
of the driveway, that's the proposed location. I think the rendering shows it on the other side, just because that's where
Yeah.
the applicant was originally hoping to put it. And that rendering is really meant more for the kind of visual example of what the sign will look like. But that location on the site plan, which is that location just north of the driveway, is the original location on the previous site plan that the
Yep.
applicant had proposed, that rock boulder sign. So this is the same spot, just a little bit different of a format for the sign.
Yeah, sounds good. I had seen that, the rendering.
Yep.
Just want to clarify.
Yep.
Yeah, that's all I had. This one's pretty straightforward.
Any other questions or comments before I open it up to the public? All right, let's open up to the public. Any questions? Bill, anyone online with us?
I think we have one hand raised. I think Bell might be driving right now, so I'm gonna. I don't know if I have the ability to promote the person. Belle, do you happen to be there? Okay, so I do not have, Deb White, I see your hand raised. I don't have the ability right now to, yeah, you can try if you want, to raise you to speak. We're gonna try to give you the ability if you just hang on 1 second.
Oh, there we go. Maybe.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, yeah, we can hear you.
Ken. Yep.
Okay, great. I'm Deb White. I live at 11 Sylvan Road in Orono. And basically, I'm not the adjacent houses, two of them, to your parking lot. I'm directly across the street, but have been serenaded by the construction noise all season while you've been doing that. So I have 3 points. One is, so your original plan said that you were removing some of the existing parking lot and you now want to keep the footprint of the original parking lot. Is that what I'm hearing?
So it would keep some of the original parking lot, really most of it, but there would be about a row of parking.
40
right?
feet. 40
Yeah,
feet.
40 feet of the original parking area would still end up being removed. But yes, they're proposing that some of that parking area that they were originally looking to remove, some of it would now remain in its kind of original form.
So how much of a buffer zone is planned if this amendment goes through, passes, between the edge of the parking lot and the Sylvan Road properties?
So I think I mentioned before, but I think it depends where exactly you're measuring from, but I think the closest distance I measured was still over 100 feet away from
Okay.
the property line. So you would have to go from the parking area to the edge of the Sargent property line and then through that town-owned buffer
yep.
strip. So by the time you get it all the way through that, it would be over 100 feet.
That's fine. That I just wanted to confirm that. And is the
Sure.
parking intended for general passenger vehicles, or is it intended for construction type vehicles? When all is said.
Yeah,
and-
that'll be just for our office staff.
So
So
your office staff
It-
will be driving general passenger vehicles, not,
That's correct. We possibly would have a dump truck that would go out to the back parking lot on an occasion, maybe for snow removal, things like that. We do have an alternate entrance off of Godfrey Drive as well.
yep, I'm familiar with that one. So Chair Phil Rock, thank you for asking about the lighting in the parking lot. I appreciate your questions about that. But I have a question about the lighting on the sign. When driving by, it appears that you have well, why don't you tell me so I'm not appearing? Are the lights, which direction are the lights facing, up or down on the signage lights?
We haven't put any of the signage in currently.
So what's your intention?
So what there'll be is there'll be a Ready Rock wall with essentially die-cast letters for Sergeant that will be backlit. The letters for Sergeant will be blue. There'll be a line underneath that'll be backlit red, and then there'll be three very low wattage LEDs that will shoot from the ground up towards the sign.
And have you checked to see how that will impact traffic at night in terms of where those LED lights might shine when you're coming around the curves there?
They're pointing in the other direction. They're
said they
pointing
were-
towards the office.
Okay. And
So Deb, just real quick, just to kind of follow up on that. So from a land use ordinance standpoint, the town's ordinance around signage, externally lit signs like that, where you have a sign and you have a couple kind of like low lights pointing, kind of illuminating the sign from below. That's something in general that's allowed in that zone. However, it's something that our code officer, during the construction process, as something like that's being put in, there's a pretty specific standard in there that lighting shouldn't cause any glare, in the roadway to people going by it. So that would be something that would be looked at kind of as that was going in. And if for whatever reason it was causing a glare, then the town would work with the property owner to kind of make any correction there if that was needed.
common sense would tell me and tell most of us that would happen. However, since the work on that site has been out of compliance for town noise ordinances multiple times, common sense as far as this work going on the site isn't being followed, and people in the neighborhood are a bit irate and haven't been pleased with the responses we've gotten from Sergeant. So I just want to make sure that the plans are signed off and town ordinances are followed. That's the reason I'm speaking.
Understood, Deb. Yeah, I did receive your letter. I wrote back to you there apologizing for the late night we had there that night. So apologize again.
Well, it was more than one night, and actually this past Saturday after 6 p.m. there was still noise. So it's a multiple thing. Our experience with your company and with the work being done on there and your response, frankly, I've been too angry to respond to your response. And this is a public meeting, so I'll stop right there. But the neighborhood has not been pleased with the blatant violation and multiple violations of the noise ordinance. And so that's why we're questioning other ordinances that are being followed. That normally we would just presume that Sergeant is a good local company and should be following all of that and will be a great new neighbor. But it hasn't been the case so far. So thank you for answering my questions. Thank you again, Phil Ruck, for asking about the lighting questions. And my hand is down now.
But I can just offer a little follow-up there. One, so at the time of writing the report, I didn't include any recommended conditions of approval. Have talked with staff. I know, as Deb said there, code staff responded to some after work hours construction activity. So we would just recommend that, if the planning board approves it, that there's just a pre-construction meeting condition added on, just so we can kind of reconvene, go over some of those noise and time ordinance standards, so that any of the remaining construction would kind of follow that and meet whatever guidelines that we had.
That's a good
And that would just-
suggestion. Yeah,
Yep.
good suggestion.
would-
that we would have two conditions. Well, so far, based on discussion, the submission of the lighting diagram, and then again, as you said, a pre-construction meeting. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, any other members of the public that would like to ask questions or comment?
There's no one else with their hand raised online.
Okay, with that, I'll close the public comment phase. Any other questions or comments from the board? Are we prepared for a motion?
We have findings of fact.
Finding of the fact.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was trying to skip that, Phil.
So
Nice
Bring
try.
water.
So because the two items tonight are amendments to previously approved plans, it's not quite as long as the usual list of findings.
Thank you, Kyle. All right, this is the proposed findings of fact, Sergeant Realty LLC site plan review, August 16, 2023. Pursuant to Article 6, Section 18-177 of the Orono Code of Ordinances, the Orono Planning Board has considered the application of Sergeant Realty LLC for an amendment to an approved site plan to keep a portion of the existing parking area previously opposed to be removed at 3 Godfrey Drive, tax map 11-0, lot 38, in the Commercial 1 and Economic Development Zone District, and based on all evidence presented by the applicant, reviewing agencies, town departments, and the public, found the following. We don't have to stop after each one, correct? To do roll, we'll just to the end. Okay.
If anyone has comments, they can jump in, but
Yep.
otherwise you can read through and then.
Okay. I'll pause after each if you want to comment. Item 1, requirements of the district, that the proposed parking lot amendment is allowable in Commercial 1 district and meets all applicable dimensional requirements. Further, that no changes to any structures or land use activity are proposed for the site. Item 2, compliance with town ordinances and codes, that the proposed amendment meets the provisions of applicable regulations of the town, including all pertinent sections of Chapter 18 Land Use Ordinance. Item 3, stormwater management, that the proposed amendment will still result in an overall reduction to impervious area on the site from the previous existing parking area, and therefore no additional stormwater runoff impacts are anticipated. Item 4, erosion control, that any erosion control measures implemented will meet the specifications contained in the Maine Department of Environmental Protection's Best Management Practices Manual. Item number 5, other review criteria, that the nature of the proposed amendment will not have any impacts to other site plan review criteria relating to items such as utilities, traffic, water, quality, shoreline relationship, solid waste management, historic and archaeological resources, or hazardous material. And that all other previous findings of the planning board will with respect to this development are unchanged and remain in place. All right,
Need a motion with the two conditions read in.
Yep. Is anyone prepared to make it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I move that we approve the application for a site plan amendment from Sergeant Realty LLC at 3 Godfrey Drive, tax map 11-0, lot 38, which is in a Commercial 1 Economic Development Zone District, with the following conditions: that there's a pre-construction meeting to describe and educate Sergeant on all ordinances that are pertinent to the construction, and that we receive a lighting diagram for the parking lot. And the sign too. And the sign.
All right, roll call.
For the approval of the amended site plan for Sergeant Realty, Phil Ruck,
Approved.
Bob Bear,
Approved.
Michael Costello,
Approved.
John Beckett,
Approved.
Judd McIntosh,
Approved.
Lisa Buck,
Approved.
Ashley Case, approved, Krista Switzer.
Approved.
That's 8-4 and unopposed.
All right.
All
Thank you.
set from me?
You're good.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next item under new business is an amendment to an approved subdivision by Forest Orono Associates LLP for the Forest Hollow subdivision located in Grant Road and Low Density Residential District. They want to recreate lots 12 and 14. Is the applicant not here, Kyle?
Correct. The applicant is not here. We've been over this type of amendment now several times. the board hasn't had too many questions in the past. This is more of a procedural thing at this point. But, you know, we did speak with the applicant. If there are any questions or, you know, concerns from the board, then, you know, we can kind of have that discussion later, but looking at past examples, applicants sort of just thought that this would go in a similar fashion. So I can give my overview.
Please do.
That's great for that. All right, so if you take a look at the plan, so this is Grant Road. The lots we're talking about are these two right here, 12 and 14. So as you'll recall, the subdivision was originally approved in 2006. Back in 2018, the applicant combined a number of lots on either side of Grant Road because over the course of the previous 10, 15 years, the lots hadn't really been selling that quickly. So the applicant had combined the lots for tax purposes at the time. Since then, these lots have been selling much more quickly and there's been a lot of interest in them. So the applicant has been sort of repeatedly coming back to recreate those existing subdivision lots as they were originally shown on that 2006 plan. So this brings us to lots 12 and 14 now. These are just about the last lots remaining. The only one left that wouldn't have been re-subdivided is this one down here, 19 at the end of the cul-de-sac. That one, speaking to the applicant and looking at the plan, there's some wetland areas there. It's also right next to the trail easement. So it could potentially be a while before that one ever came back to the planning board. You know, a little more iffy on how much interest that lot will get. But for the time being, 12 and 14, I believe, do have some interested buyers. So the applicant is looking to just re-subdivide those two lots in their original form. The LDR, low density residential district standards have not changed since this subdivision went into place. The minimum lot size is 60,000 square feet. So almost an acre and a half. These two lots are just about 2 acres each individually. They both have adequate frontage still on the road. The applicant, when lots 8 and 10 were approved by the planning board, the applicant's amended SLOTA application with DEP, that DEP application considered lots 8, 10, 12, and 14. So DEP has already approved the SLOTA amendment for these two lots. So from a stormwater standpoint, there aren't any new features or new stormwater management pieces that need to go into place here. So yeah, pretty straightforward, really just recreating those two lots as they were before.
All right, thank you, Kyle. Before we open it up to the public, any questions or comments from the board?
I have one comment. I'm just curious, Kyle, this has been a unique subdivision, with all the back and forth coming, with the applicant coming in or not coming in sometimes, but it seems to, kind of subvert the process. So I'm just wondering again, perhaps to flag this one for a discussion of our comprehensive plan, because it doesn't seem to be the intent how this is working. And I'm not sure that we want to waste planning board time, with this back and forth stuff. So I guess just a comment, if we could perhaps review this during the comp plan process, that might be something to think about.
Sure. Yeah, we can note that, and we can take a look at options for procedures going forward.
Yeah, maybe just staff.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm certainly not sure if anyone with a subdivision going forward. I'm not sure we would recommend this approach to anyone. It's certainly, yeah, I'm not sure how much benefit it's resulted in. But yeah, it's something we could at least look into procedurally.
Yep, thank you.
Any other comments, questions? All right, I think we need, even though there's no one here, we should formally open it, correct? So we'll open it for public comment. Any comment?
There's
Question?
nobody with their hand raised online.
Was that a sound I heard?
I think that was Bill. It doesn't look like anyone has a hand raised online, so.
Okay. All right, we'll close it. Any other questions, comments before I read the finding of fact? Follow the same process again. Thanks. All right, the proposed finding of fact, Forest Hollow subdivision, amended subdivision review, August 16, 2023, pursuant to Article 7, Section 18-210, subdivision review of the Orono Code of Ordinances. The Orono Planning Board has considered the application of Donald Benson to amend the Forest Hollow subdivision originally approved in July 2006 by recreating lots 12 and 14 as they were depicted on the 2006 original subdivision plan. The property is located in the low-density residential district on Grant Road, and based on all evidence presented by the applicant, reviewing agencies, town departments, and the public, the planning board found the following. Number one, lots. The proposed amendment will recreate lots 12 and 14, as they were approved by the planning board in 2006 subdivision review from the retained land area on the east side of Grant Road. Further, that lots 12 and 14 meet all the minimum dimensional requirements of the low-density residential district. Item 2. Overall findings as to the other elements of the Forest Hollow subdivision, that recreating lots 12 and 14 from the original 2006 subdivision plan will not affect any previous findings, leading to the original approval of the Forest Hollow subdivision, and will not adversely affect any element of the original approval, including standards for sewer and water utilities, pollution control, the roadway and traffic circulation, stormwater management, or financial and technical capacity. Further, that all other findings of the planning board with respect to this development at its meeting of July 19, 2006 are unchanged and remain in place. Any concerns? All right, can I get a motion?
Sure. I recommend that we approve the subdivision by Forest Orono Associates LLP for the Forest House subdivision located on Grant Road in the low density residential district to recreate lots 12 and 14.
There's two conditions too, if the board is. happy with those.
On the back here.
Oh, okay, there we are. And there are two conditions for this, that all findings of the planning board with respect to this development at its meeting of July 19th, 2006, and all conditions of approval and requirements pertaining thereto are unchanged and remain in place. And that the signed amended subdivision plan to include conditions of approval that run with the property be recorded at the Registry of Deeds within 90 days of approval of the amended plan.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call.
For the approval of the amended subdivision plan by Forest Orono Associates LLP, Phil Ruck,
Approved.
Bob Bear,
Approved.
Michael Costello,
Approved.
John Beckett,
Approved.
Judd McIntosh,
Approved.
Lisa Buck,
Approved.
Ashley Case, approved, Krista Schwenser.
Approved.
That's 8 for approval, none opposed.
Thank you. Next item is 6, discussion.
So, well, just one note on the last item, if the planning board members who are in person can just stick around to sign the subdivision plan afterwards, so the applicant can pick that up and get recorded. His second, is you're all aware, I accepted a position, as planner in South Portland. So this will be my last planning board meeting that I'll be attending. My last day in Orono will be September 14th, I believe. So just want to say thank you to everyone here. I've enjoyed working with the planning board, and it's been one of the parts about this that I've enjoyed the most, I'd say. There were periods of, some development not coming through, but I think we also looked at some pretty neat projects for the town along the way as well. And it was always a pretty easy and enjoyable experience working with all of you. So thanks. And, hope we, I'm sure I'll be around and up this way at some point. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Kyle.
Yeah.
For everything you
I
did.
was
Go ahead,
gonna
Phil.
say something to it. Yeah, Kyle,
Yeah, you go.
yeah, I did want to mention that I wanted to attend tonight because I knew you were a short timer now, Kyle. But yeah, I just want to say, again, you had tough shoes to fill, Kyle. Replacing Evan Rickert is a tall task. And I wanted to commend you on your ability to do that. You jumped right in. You've helped out the planning board tremendously over 5 years now. That went by in a heartbeat, but I think you've done an outstanding job. You'll be sorely missed by our board, and I'm disappointed that we didn't get the chance to work together on the next comprehensive plan, because that's really a cool process to go through. But best of luck in your endeavors at South Portland.
Thank you, Phil.
Second. And didn't you hear Phil? He said he's coming back up for those comprehensive planning meetings.
See, that's the
right?
attitude.
Isn't that?
Very nice, very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't you say that?
Yeah,
Oh,
sure. why not?
okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think procedurally, there's a couple items potentially that'll be on the September planning board agenda. So I'll be around for a lot of the review for those things. I don't think there's any, we're looking at a potential ordinance amendment, around the housing law that, went through the state, and an amendment to a project the board previously approved. So over the next few weeks, I'll work with Mitch and other people here to kind of loop them into my review process and just where those things were. So we can kind of, make it as easy of a transition at next month's meeting as possible. But yeah, thanks again.
Thank you. All right, next item is adjournment. Can we get a move? Quick.
Second.
Wow.
Who was that first one? I can't make it out over there. There's 3 of you in a row that kind of sound the
Charlie?
same.
Yeah.
Okay. For the adjournment of the August planning board meeting, Phil Ruck,
Approved.
Bob Bear,
Approved.
Michael Costello,
Approved.
John Beckett,
Approved.
Judd McIntosh,
Approved.
Lisa Buck,
Approved.
Ashley Case, approved, Krista Schwenzer.
Approved.
That's 8 for approval, none opposed.
Great job, Judd. You're hired.
Somebody should have made a motion for Judd to use the gavel.
It feels too authoritarian to